If you want to use Adobe's powerful AI masking without paying for a subscription, this video is for you. In my recent 10-step Darktable workflow video, I processed this image of a vintage biplane. The side of the aircraft facing the camera was in shadow, so I needed to lift the exposure without blowing out the background. I accomplished that by manually adding a series of drawn masks in Darktable. Drawn masks work great for simple shapes, but with a complex subject like this, wings, struts, landing gear, and dozens of thin rigging wires, it was a real struggle. Darktable also offers parametric masks, but they were equally ineffective here. The gray and blue tones of the biplane are simply too similar to the background scenery to isolate cleanly. Today, I'll show you a simple workflow that uses a free version of Adobe's powerful AI to create subject masks so accurate they preserve individual rigging wires. Before we get to the workflow, a quick note on timing. Darktable 5.6 is scheduled to release on June 21st, 2026, and it includes native AI object masking for the first time in a stable build. It's based on two models, SegNeXt, a CVPR 2024 research model from UNC Chapel Hill, and Meta's Segment Anything Model 2, known as SAM 2. Everything runs completely locally on your machine. No data leaves your computer. Check out this recent video to see a demo. There are some current limitations worth knowing about. The internal mask resolution is capped at 256 by 256 pixels for now, which means ultrafine details can occasionally be hit or miss. Think of it as handling about 80% of the workflow very well, with the remaining 20% needing a bit of manual cleanup. The developers have said edge accuracy will continue to improve well beyond the 5.6 release. So why am I talking about this free Adobe workflow? Because as of right now, Adobe's AI still tends to produce cleaner results on complex subjects, particularly on something like this biplane with its rigging, wires, and intricate structure. The good news? You don't need to pay for it. What most photographers don't realize is that Adobe offers a completely free AI background removal tool online. You upload an image, Adobe analyzes it, and a few seconds later you get back a transparent PNG with your subject cleanly isolated. No subscription, no account required. Just upload, process, and download. Here's the principle behind the workflow, and it's worth understanding before we start. We're going to export two versions of the same image from Darktable, one correctly exposed, one with the aircraft brightened. Then we'll use Adobe's AI to cut out the brighter aircraft and layer it back on top of the correctly exposed image. The AI does the masking, Darktable does the editing. A layer editor does the compositing. Simple and entirely free. Start in Darktable, editing your raw file exactly as you normally would. If you've seen my 10-step workflow video, you already know the structure. Technical corrections first, then global tone and color, then image-specific edits. Work through all of that. Get the image looking exactly the way you want, except for the adjustment you're planning to isolate. Once you're happy, export the image as a high-quality JPEG, quality 95 or above, sRGB profile. This is your base image, the one with the correct overall exposure. Now, stay in Darktable, apply the adjustments you want to restrict to the aircraft only. In my case, that's approximately one additional stop of exposure. At this stage, the entire image gets brighter. That's fine, we only care about the aircraft. Export this second version as another high-quality JPEG, same settings. Now we have two files, the correctly exposed image and the brighter version. Next, open Adobe's free background remover. A quick search for Adobe Remove Background Free will find the website. Upload the brighter version of the image. Adobe's AI analyzes the photograph and automatically separates the subject from the background. A few seconds later, download the result. What you've created is a transparent PNG, a cutout of the brighter aircraft with the background removed. And that's exactly what we need. Now, open your preferred layer-based editor. You could use GIMP, Photopea, Affinity Photo, Canva, really any editor that supports layers. For this example, I'll use Affinity Photo. Place the original JPEG on the bottom layer. Place the transparent PNG directly above it. You do this by copying the transparent layer and then pasting it onto the normally exposed full image. That's it. The brighter aircraft now sits precisely on top of the correctly exposed background. And because the mask was generated by Adobe's AI, even fine details, struts, landing gear, rigging wires, are preserved surprisingly well. At this point, it's worth toggling the top layer on and off to see exactly what difference the brighter aircraft is making. It's a satisfying moment and a good sanity check before you export. Now, the result won't always be perfect at every edge. Adobe's tool is excellent, but it's not magic. Occasionally, you'll see a slight halo, or a small area where the background bled through. In those cases, add a layer mask to the top layer and paint over the problem areas with a soft, low opacity black brush. That's the non-destructive approach. Nothing is permanently erased, and you can always paint it back with white. If you prefer, a low opacity eraser works too, though a layer mask gives you more control. For most aviation subjects like this one, the default result is already very clean. Looking at this particular image, that one-stop boost might actually be a little bit too much. The aircraft is brighter, but it's starting to feel a little detached from the scene. You can also fine-tune using layer opacity or blend modes if you want to dial back the adjustment slightly. At this point, some people will ask about JPEG quality. It's a fair question, but in practice, it's not a real problem. All of the important image processing happened earlier, while you were working with the raw file inside Darktable. These exports are near-final images, composited together. Think of it as a finishing step, not a replacement for raw editing. As long as you're exporting at high quality, the results will hold up. I've used this approach on client work, and the output looks excellent even at full resolution. Is this workflow a little unconventional? Absolutely. But it's also completely free, and it gives Darktable users access to some of the most accurate AI subject masking currently available, without adding another monthly subscription. With Darktable 5.6 arriving on June 21st, native AI masking is finally here in a stable release. And it's genuinely good, especially for subjects that stand out cleanly. But for complex subjects where fine edge details really matter, this Adobe workflow still has an edge. Use Darktable 5.6's AI masking as your first tool. Keep this technique in your back pocket for the shots where you need a little more. If you haven't seen my 10-step Darktable workflow video yet, that's linked below. It's the foundation this technique builds on. And if you found this useful, hit like and subscribe. It helps other Darktable users find these videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.